Hey there everybody, it's Mark Crowley back with another How to Draw video. I've got a video about how to draw people kissing. It focuses mainly on the faces. This time I'm going to focus more on the pose. So let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, so you can see that I've drawn kind of a simple square here, tilted a little bit to one side. Note that this line here is dividing it neatly in half pretty much, whereas this line is just shifted a little bit over to the left. I'm going to add one more line. So you can see I added just a diagonal line right here. Later on, this is going to help us place the eyes on the two faces. So I'm going to go ahead now and start to indicate the shapes of the two heads. This is going to be the female character's head right here. And very kind of typical when people are drawing the human head. You get this sort of teardrop shape when you're drawing the head from the side. And then over here, this is going to be the boy's face. Now, later on, of course, the profile area is going to be considerably more complex as we draw the nose, the mouth, the lips, and so forth. But I just want to say one more time that this video is not going to be about drawing the kiss itself. It really is going to focus more on the pose. And so I'll be linking to that other video just in case you missed it. But let's go ahead and just to begin with, put one line here that's going to give us a sense of where the ear is going to fall. And over here for him, we'll do the same thing. And maybe his jawline coming up like so. Now, I'm going to stay away from drawing the faces for right now. I'm going to move on to drawing the rest of the pose. And here what we need to do is start to indicate her shoulder. Now, it crosses over in front of her head just a little bit. And the upper arm is coming down to a point where it very nearly reaches this line here. And in fact, one line, the line that's at her elbow, is going to come right off of that line and start heading down in this direction. Before we go too far, though, I want to go ahead and finish off that upper arm so you can kind of see what it is that I'm drawing here, because I have a feeling that so far the pose is remaining a little bit of a mystery because we've got so few lines in place. But this will be her elbow coming across like so. Now, with a lot of romantic kissing poses, you will find the artist wants to have one hand raised, placed either on the cheek of the character, or in this case it's going to be a little bit around his neck. One thing to focus on if you're drawing the female character's arm, forearm, is to make sure you get that wrist quite narrow and kind of delicate. I think artists will even exaggerate the degree to which a female wrist is narrower and more delicate, and then they will make the male characters, they're always emphasizing making the masculine characteristics even more masculine to emphasize the differences. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to do that. You may choose to draw in a different way. But anyway, we've got her arm, and you can see the thumb coming across here where it's going to sort of go right up onto his cheek. And then I'm going to go ahead and finish off drawing her shoulder coming down into the back. And that is going to come down like so. And let's go ahead and finish off his neck, which is going to come right down here. He's kind of tilting his head upwards to meet her kiss. And then the line that separates her body from his is coming right off of the elbow down here. Now, he also is going to be bringing his arm up to touch her, so or to put his hand around her back. So let's go ahead and start putting in his other, or not his other, he's only got one arm in this drawing. His other arm? You haven't drawn any arm at all. What are you talking about, boy? But we're going to go ahead and do, and like I said, we're kind of over-emphasizing almost how macho and strong this guy is with his upper arm. Don't have to do that if if you want to be a little more realistic, say. But one thing I want to do before I go too much further is to add just a few more guidelines to help me get the rest of this pose right, or to help you see where the lines are going to go. Okay, so you can see I added one extra line sort of extending this square into a rectangle, and this space here is maybe a little wider than this space there, just as a guideline. Not so crucial once you get down here, I don't think, in terms of line placement. But I'm going to go ahead and finish off drawing his arm. It comes, this is the upper arm here, it comes down, and then bending at the elbow is going to come up here and reach until his hand can rest upon her lower back. And before I draw his hand, I should probably indicate her lower back as it sort of comes down here to the bottom of the back and then comes up like so. And that gives us the place where his hand is going to rest. Again, his hand looks quite large compared to hers. This is based on what I see a lot of times in these, manga illustrations and even Western style. They're always wanting the male figures to look especially masculine. So I'm drawing his hands. I wish this could be a video about drawing every line of the hand, but again, I don't want this video to go on forever, so I'm kind of dashing this in here quite quickly. But this gives you the basic placement of his hand. Coming down here, we're going to continue this line of her body, coming down to here. And let's say she's got some kind of a sweater on or something, and that allows us to place the rest of her leg coming across here. I'm basically focusing mainly on the pose up here. So once we get down to this part of the drawing, I'm not going to be going too much in terms of the detail. So here's his sweater and coming across and just beginning to indicate his lower body. And this helps us get the basics of the pose in place. Now, I know it doesn't look like much right now, but once we get into the details, I think we're going to be able to get something that looks good. But let's go ahead and maybe finish off his sleeve here. I see his sleeve is ending right there. Let's give her a long sleeve that comes all the way up. I always notice these manga artists or anime artists drawing the sleeves that come all the way up across the wrist for the female characters. Something kind of attractive about that. And that pretty much does that. Now let's go ahead and zoom in on the area of the faces to get the most important lines in place there. Okay, so like I said, this video is not going to be so much about drawing the profile, but I can at least show you where the eyes are going to go so that you can begin to work on that. And I've got this other video that I can link to that shows in greater detail the line placement of the kiss itself. I'm going to put her eye right there on that line and his eye over here on the same line. And from there, I think we can place the ears. Her ear is partially concealed by her shoulder, but right here across from her eye, anyone who studies anatomy will tell you that the ears are pretty near to the eyes in terms of location on the head. But his head is sort of tilting back a little bit, so I think that causes his ear to maybe drop a little bit down below that line. And so I'm dropping that in there. And I know a lot of people will hate to see this all in time-lapse, but like I said, the other video covers this in considerable detail. So I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of the face profiles in time-lapse. Okay, so we've got that in place, and one just little tip that I'd say is that whenever you're drawing a kiss like this, you've got to choose one person's face that comes in front on the bottom, like his chin is coming in front here, and then her upper lip is coming in front here. And so it's one or the other, and you make that choice early on as to whose face is coming in front in your illustration. I'm going to go ahead and do some very loose lines for her hairstyle. People are always laughing because I tend to draw female characters with ponytails or pigtails a lot. And what are you, obsessed, man? Is it like, is that what like turns you on or something? Pigtails? Come on, man. But basically what it is, my idea is to make sure we can see the character's face. And so I'm always wanting to pull the hair back so as to make the face clearly visible in my illustrations. So, as you can guess, I am going to give her a cute little ponytail. Why not just go ahead and have it drop down like so. Oh, I just realized that sometimes I forget to check the camera and see that I'm drawing beyond, drawing in an area of paper that is not being picked up by the video camera. So I'm like, do, and put a line here. And everyone's like, Crilly, you're drawing like off here somewhere. We can't see anything, man. I'm going to go back to my Brooklyn. Everyone says the Brooklyn. Hey, look, make sure we can see the lines, Crilly. Let's go ahead and get his hair in here. And as so often I say, I feel like a broken record here, but this is not so much a video about the hair. I have done videos that are about the hair, just for the record, but just to give you a sense of how much territory, I suppose you would say, his hair is going to take up in this illustration. Notice that it goes well beyond that initial line of the head that we'd put in there. And yeah, maybe enough said about that. Let's pull back and get more into just the final details of the pose before we start going into final line work and shading and all that. Okay, so I thought I would spend the rest of this video in terms of placing lines, focusing on wrinkles of the clothing. I know that can give people a lot of trouble, and I should indeed do another video that focuses on clothing wrinkles. But notice that we tend to get a bunch down here by the waist. Very often they come at the elbow. The wrinkles do. And here I'm going to put a little bit of a seam, just that's a sort of a clothing thing. Very often the seam follows, not along the very top of the shoulder, but just a little bit down from there. And then near the wrist, we also tend to see wrinkles forming. And so for him, I'm going to kind of do the same thing. We're going to get some wrinkles here around the armpit. And get that seam there, like I said, just a little down, maybe not exactly right on the shoulder. And definitely for him, if he's got his, let's say he's got his sleeve pulled up, then it's going to create quite a mass of wrinkles here around the elbow and just around that area where the clothing is all bunched up. Again, that's, you know, that could be a video unto itself, all of the clothing wrinkles and so forth. But at least you can get some sense of where they might form in such a pose. I'm going to indicate a little bit of his chest here. And once we get in here, there's going to be a lot of shadows that conceal a lot of this stuff. But let's go ahead and get the bottom of his sweater here. I have a habit of always doing these sort of banded areas down here that kind of says, sweater, this is a sweater. I almost reflexively do it, so I maybe need to widen my repertoire of clothing choices here. But I'm going to go ahead and just, like I said, down here I'm not going to get so much into the details of the pose, but we want to see her blue jeans here. The seam, I find that the seam of a blue jean can be a very useful tool for defining the leg, you know, and that added line there and these wrinkles that form around the waist, or drawing the back pocket of her blue jeans. All of these things can help to convey that form. Again, I wish I could spend more time talking about the anatomy of the hand and so forth, but that's the challenge with a video like this about a pose. Once you start trying to give people a step-by-step approach to drawing a pose like this, boy, you just you open up a Pandora's box of so many different things that could take so much time. Before long, I end up with a half-an-hour video, which, sad to say, an awful lot of people will not watch. Though I know a lot of you will. So, you know, maybe it is time for me to branch out into doing those longer-form videos. But not today. I'm going to go ahead and try to wrap this one up. I'm going to move into doing my trusty Prismacolor black-colored pencil. It doesn't matter how many times I say what it is. People always say, "What is that pencil?" The black Prismacolor. I think it's time for the Prismacolor company to start, you know, paying me. What's going on here? This is like free advertising, man. All right, let's go ahead and kick it into time-lapse and finish off this drawing. Okay, well, there you have my video on how to draw a romantic kissing pose. Funny thing happened, I got into the toning part of it and I realized that his sleeve did not match this bottom part here, so I had to go back and add that in. These things happen sometimes even in my published comics. But if I know my viewers like I think I know them, about half of you right now are saying, oh, really? Blushies? Blushies, man? So let's go ahead and give our characters their blushies. Possibly the most important part of the whole drawing. But I want to thank anyone who has supported me by picking up my books. Brody's Ghost, we got Miki Falls, we got Mastering Manga, my How to Draw Manga book. I especially want to thank those of you who have waited for years watching my videos and finally decided, you know what? Let's support the guy by picking up one of his books. I really do appreciate you taking the plunge like that. But let's go ahead and lay the pencil down. I want to thank you all for watching this video. I hope you found it useful, and I'll be back with another one real soon.